Hello everyone, welcome, thank you for watching. If you haven't seen my videos before, please be sure to check out my channel. I have quite a number of videos about primarily Omega watches, but also a few others. Today's video is a little bit different, or at least the subject matter of the video is a little bit different than what I typically cover, because most of the watches I discuss are newer than this one, but I wanted to share with everyone this pleasant surprise that I discovered fairly recently. This is an Omega Seamaster Professional 200M. This is the watch that preceded the Bond Seamaster Professional 300M, which is a much more well-known and was a better selling watch than this one. And actually, the 300M basically continues to this day. You can clearly see the same design language from 1993 to the present day. But as you can see, this is a very different watch from the present Seamaster Professional. The differences are quite obvious, ranging from the very interesting case shape, the integrated bracelet, the shape of the links on the bracelet, even the way the clasp is done has basically nearly no resemblance to the successor watch. The dial, the hands in particular on this one, and I'll get into some of the variations that you find in this model a little later in the video, but these are the original hands that this model came with, and clearly you can see the hour hand is very similar to a Rolex with the Mercedes style design. This is the kind of watch that when I first saw it, just browsing and reading, I didn't really pay much attention to it, primarily because of the fact that I thought it looked very odd. It did not resemble any other Omega I was aware of, and since I already had sort of an idea of the aesthetic that I was interested in the watches I collect, I thought this was, way different from what I typically like. So here's some other quirks about this watch. As you can see, that's a very unusual two-piece case back. You take off that outer ring and then the middle piece comes out. Just a strange design compared to the vast majority of other watches. Again, this is an area where you'll see variation with this model, and I'll get into that a little later, as I mentioned. I'll do a quick view of the clasp now as well. As you can see, it's pretty much stamped metal. This is an era where the watches were definitely not as strong in construction as they are today. That's not to say that it's a bad watch or badly made watch, but it's not at the same level, definitely, of the Omega of today. But that being said, what happened was I found one of these, I bought it, and this is the actual watch that I first got. And as you can see, it's in great condition. And I was so pleasantly surprised by this watch that I said, I don't want to wear this one because I didn't want to risk damaging it or scratching it. And it was too nice to really expose to further wear. So I ended up buying a second one, and the interesting thing that happened was I ended up with two different variations of this watch. And I say variations because there's no official change to reference numbers or anything like that, but during the course of production, which ran from about 1987 to maybe 95 or 94, Omega changed a few components of this watch, but the changes were not made in a regular manner, meaning there's no set date where a change was made, and you'll find the different components mixed up on the different variations. And the primary areas, or the areas that I am aware of where there were changes to this watch, well, one you can see right here is the dial. They changed the hands from that Mercedes hour hand set to a more typical Omega sword style hand. The case back, as you can see here, also changed from a two-piece case back to a more traditional one-piece. The shape of the crown also changed, as you can see here. Here's a better shot of the two side by side. The newer variant on the left, the older on the right. But as I said, you'll see the features mixed up between these if you browse what's available for sale, because oftentimes when a watch was serviced, you know, the older model got the newer hands or the newer crown, things like that. But so as you can see here, I mentioned the different style of hands, the different style of crown. The newer watch on the left has a ridged crown. The older watch on the right has a lobe-shaped crown. Bracelets were the same. Bezel inserts the same as far as I know. The only other notable difference was with the clasp, and I will have a shot of that a little later to show you. But basically, the older watch had a pretty traditional single fold-over stamped metal clasp, where the newer one also has a stamped metal clasp, but with an additional secondary lock which contained a diver extension. And there'll be a shot of that in a moment, but just something to note about collecting these watches. And as I said, the interesting thing is you'll find the watches with different features mixed together. And there are even variants that I didn't show here. There's a two-piece case back with the hippocampus logo, which I don't have, so it's sort of like intermediate between the two case backs I showed here. Here's a shot of the 200M. This is the larger version of the 200M 40mm case next to a 41mm 300M. So as you can see, it is fairly comparable in size. I think the integrated bracelet helps bulk the watch up a little bit. The vast majority of these Omega 200M were in the smaller 36mm size, and the vast majority across both sizes were quartz, although there is an automatic version. Here's another shot of the Omega 200. On the right now is a 39.2mm Aquaterra, on the left 41mm 300M. Again, it wears comparably in size to these two watches, but I would say maybe feels a hair smaller. And that's also due to the fact that it's a very thin watch, which to me is another major plus. As I've expressed in other videos, I'm not a big fan of the direction Omega's gone with the very thick watch cases. But all in all, I think this is a very interesting watch which manages to look both vintage and modern at the same time, which is a weird thing to say, but that's the best way I could describe it. I would say maybe because this trend of integrated bracelet has somewhat come back in the past couple of years, that helps make this watch look a little bit more modern today. As you probably know, the Tissot PRX and there are other models from other brands that have really brought the integrated bracelet back in style. I think this is a very beautiful example of an integrated bracelet, and it's definitely somewhat overlooked. I also love the lines of the case. It is a very beautiful case, more so in person than just looking at the picture, but it's has a nice flow from the case to the bracelet. And everything, the watch is very thin, not only the case, the bracelet as well, and the bezel. Everything lies very flat and very comfortable on the wrist. And even the clasp, it is stamped metal, which is generally, less favored by most people, but there is a big plus, and that's additional thinness you get with the stamped metal clasp. This is back to the older variant I have. This is the one that has more wear, so this is the one I've ended up using more just because I'm not too concerned about condition. But from what I have read, it can be a little difficult to access parts for these watches. I've even read reports of people saying that Omega did not want to service this watch because of the lack of some parts. So something to keep in mind. It didn't have a long production run, and I don't know how much of a great seller it was during those years either. So, the supply of these, it's not a rare watch, but it's not going to be available in the tremendous numbers that, the successor 300M is available in. So something to keep in mind. But I cannot stress how pleasantly surprised I was really by this watch. I was not expecting a whole lot. I read a lot of comments saying that they're not well built and the dials deteriorate really easily, and the bracelets are prone to stretch. And while that might be true compared to the extremely high quality that modern Omega has today, this watch is still a very well-made watch, objectively compared to all watch brands. Objectively compared to like a mid-tier watch of today, I would say this watch is equal or better. On both examples of mine, the sapphire is virtually unmarked, even on this one, which exhibits a very heavy amount of wear. So, for the relatively low prices that these are still available for, I think they present a really good value and something that's quite different from most likely what's in most people's collections, and especially what you'd find in a typical Omega collection, just because there really were no other watches made like this. And funny thing I came across in my reading about this watch was a copy of an Omega ad from the time period, I think maybe 1989, 1990, and it had a funny byline, something like, this watch is for the diver who likes to party, which I thought was cute explanation for its design. And I really think to some extent it's a good summary. This is a really stylish watch. I think you could wear this anywhere. It's not like some giant thing sticking out of your wrist, which can't even go under a shirt cuff. It's very nice and thin. It's not obtrusive, but it has style. It's not purely utilitarian. That bracelet is definitely like a style statement. And for those reasons, I think it is a great blend of a watch that could be was designed initially as a diver, but can be very much part of nice attire, maybe somewhat similar to an Omega Aquaterra in that regard, but with a little bit more of a sporty angle due to the fact that this does have a rotating bezel and painted bezel insert. So I'm curious to hear what others have to say about this watch. If you have this watch, if you don't have it, if you've never seen it before, let me know what you think. Like I said, in summary, this watch was a pleasant surprise to me. I found it very comfortable. I really like its unique looks, which really stand out from anything else that I own and basically anything else I see in the market, new or used. For those reasons, I would certainly recommend this watch as part of either an Omega collection, and perhaps a collection where you have watches from the 80s and 90s, and really just for anyone, especially considering the fact that they're available for a good price, considering that they are Omegas. Anyway, let me know what you think, and once again, thanks for watching. And if you like this video, please check out my others on Omega, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.